one of our messages. Sorry, make sure we're recording. Welcome back. Last day, day 7. We had one of our Zoom links that had an erroneous link in it. So I'm just giving people a few extra minutes to get in the Zoom who might have needed the correct link. So while we are doing that and we are waiting, I would love to take some shares from you guys as to what your biggest wins have been this week. We're going to do a round of wins and celebrations, what your biggest ahas, your biggest takeaways, and your biggest wins have been, whether it's mindset, whether it's technique from this week. So use the raise hand button at the bottom under React. Who'd like to share some ahas, some wins for this week? I can hear you guys thinking across the metaverse. What were my biggest wins? And you guys, we start Mindset Call in the intensive program every week by sharing a round of wins and celebrations, because we're all so good at focusing what isn't working yet, what should be here, what we don't have, what, all the shoulds and the lack. And we negate to also celebrate the things that are working, the things, even if it's the tiniest win in the world, it is 1 yard down the field. And those little wins, they add up to big shifts. So I see Lily has her hand up. Yeah, Lily, you're up.
Hi, Arden. Nice to meet you. So for me, I think the biggest win was to really address my excuses, declare them as such. If I just tell myself, oh, I don't have the time, then I might fall into the trap of believing it. And now I've really put that on the list of excuses and no, wait, stop, Lily, that's an excuse, and that doesn't count as an argument. It really helped me to start pursuing my goals more seriously this week already, I think.
That is so true. And really celebrating you, Lily, for recognizing that excuse. And I'm going to invite you to borrow one of my beliefs, which is that I create time. I create time. Time is relative. I create time, because that's one of the excuses that I've had. Just even, I'm a single mom. I run a big business. I do carpool. I do all the things, right? And so what was the moment where you recognized that you had that moment for you, that you're done with that excuse?
I think it was just like creating the list of excuses that made me realize that's totally an excuse and that's not a valid argument. Um, because, well, I should find time for the things that matter to me. Of course, singing does and making music does. So yeah, having that on the list that you taught us to create and to put together, just seeing that on a piece of paper made it really clear for me.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with this information now?
I just know how to handle the thought better. I mean, it just came up yesterday. I wanted to continue songwriting process and thought, I have no time. I have other things to do. And then, yeah, immediately caught myself saying that and noticed the excuse behavior. Of course, I can't always find time at this moment, but then I decidedly put aside time later on in the day to finish the song.
Yeah, you created time. You did. Yay. All right. Thank you. That's
Right.
a
Yeah,
distinction.
that's such a good belief, such a good way of thinking. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, who else? Distinctions from the week, big things. I see hands raising. Kathy Robbins, I see you in the video. And you guys can do that, or you can use the raise hand function down under reactions in the Zoom. Kathy.
Yeah, I learned that as long as we just don't care what we sound like, we actually sound better.
Yeah. And so how did that come forward this week? Have you practiced with that idea?
Yes, and at church, I get asked to sing. I got asked to sing coming up soon. And as long as I stand there and I don't care what they think, I sound pretty good.
Yeah, it's true, you guys. All of that caring so much about what we can't control, which is what somebody thinks of us, it makes us try to manipulate and get all up in there and control, and all those things actually make us sound worse. Like, so I'm glad you got that from this. That's so important. Thank you, Kathy. Who
You're
else?
welcome.
Wins for the week, celebrations for the week, ahas, distinctions. Yeah. Let's see. I see a couple of you. Was Eunice, did I see you raising your hand? Yeah, go ahead and unmute. You're muted. Just hit the unmute. It's the little microphone. We still don't hear you. You're still muted. Oh, I think she must have to fix her audio. Okay, well, while we're waiting for Eunice to come back, anybody else have aha shift that they want to share? Oh, come on, you guys, find the win. Find the win.
Okay.
Even, oh,
Good
Antonio
afternoon.
Okay, wait, I see Eunice and then Antonio on deck.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, I hear you now. Hi.
Okay, hi. Hi, Arden. Oh my gosh. The awe moment for me was the, how can I say it? The age. There were people around my age, and that made me feel good because sometimes I feel like I was out there all by myself, alone, but that was very encouraging to see people around my age, and they still trying because I'm still trying, to make it as a singer. So
what's your new belief around your age?
from the age that don't ever give up. Whatever you want to do, just keep trying. And I'm trying not to worry too much about things. So I just say I'm just going to trust God and do all I can do with God's strength, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give you a like a little mantra that you can sort of hold on to and really marinate on, which is because your limiting belief wants to tell you that you're too old to do this, that nobody's going to want to hire you, or your time has passed, or however you speak to it in your own mind. And so we want to answer that with a better belief that serves you better, which is, I am the exact age to do what I want to do. I have more experience now. I have more wisdom now. I have more time now. I have more. Why is this the exact right time for you to do this? Because truly, Eunice, if it was meant for you to do earlier, you would have.
It's true.
I'm going to give that to you to stack on. This is my time. I am the exact age to do this because of X, Y, Z. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. I think we got time for one more celebration from the week. Aha moment. Yeah, Antonio.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I want to take this time to say this to everybody that's already on here, including you, because the first day that when I said that I was, it was the fear and frightened of trying to make myself notice about going out on stage. And when everybody gave me that comment, including for you, what you said to me was, it's like an opportunity for me to embrace myself. And when I learned everything this past week, to the practice to make yourself notice into this world. And I believe that everybody that's on here right now is going to do the same. And they said by the age, it doesn't matter about the age. It matters about the person. It matters about the feelings of how they going by it and trying to make themselves better than what they really want, and to courage to go on with their lives and to go on
Right.
to pursue their dreams.
Exactly. Because I will tell you this, guys, the dream has to be bigger than the fear. To speak to Antonio, what he's talking about courage. The dream, the goal, the vision, it has to be bigger than the fear. If the dream is not bigger than the fear, then with all the love in the world, you guys, you will stay exactly where you are. Whether it's the fear of putting yourself out there, whether it's the fear of investing in yourself to get the help you need to get past the blocks that are stopping you from getting where you want to go, whether it's the fear of succeeding, like, what if I do succeed? Then will that take me away from my family? Will that take me away from my whatever? Like, right? The dream and the vision that you have and the actualization of your gifts and doing what you were put on this planet to do, it has to be bigger than the fear. And so that requires courage. And that also requires support. That's what we're here for, right? But that I hear you leaning into that courage, that the dream is bigger than the fear. And so I honor you for that. Take that with you, okay?
Yes, I will. And I want to say to everyone around here that's on Zoom right now, I will pray for you and support you to whatever decision that y'all make in life. And I'm doing the same thing myself, including whatever, if it's your family, your friends, they're going to support you, go ahead. And as for you, Miss Talia, you was an amazing person that I saw that was just, it blew my mind when you just sing gospel. It doesn't matter if you sing gospel, R&B, whatever, you go on, do your thing, girl. And,
Thank you. Same to you.
and for everybody else right here, do your thing. And I love all of y'all, for real, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Antonio. That's so sweet. I will
You
be
are.
taking that with me. All right, you guys. Anybody else have any win celebrations, ahas from the week that they want to share before we move on? Yes, I see Peggy in the chat. Or no, Peggy is a thumbs up. I don't know if you wanted to share or if you, let's see. I see Sapphire. Yes.
Hey, yeah, I was we were watching the replay for Camilla, and like everything she was saying was like me, and like it was just in my heart. I was like, it's like me talking kind of. And even though I'm not that old, I like I had this dream since I was little that I was going to be a child star, and not even I didn't even know you could get paid for that, but I just wanted to share music and like do it. And I'm 19 now, and I never got to be like never got to be like a child singer. So I was like, oh, I'm too old now. It's like my dream is past, and I'm like, maybe I could still do it. I like, of course I have to do it, but I'm like, I feel like no matter how much I try, I'll never achieve that. And then that opened up my mind. I was like, why not? That was so, it made me happy.
And it's like, you guys, why not you? Why not now? When is now the time to change? When is now the time to go beyond the fear, to go beyond the comfort zone, to do the things that you need to do to get from A to Z? And it's that nagging belief that it won't work, or that that you can't, or that you're not worth it, or whatever. And it's like, in those moments, that's the discomfort, that's the resistance that I was talking about yesterday. And those are the things that stop people from getting help, from going out there and being a part of a larger network, to be able to meet whatever it is, producers, casting people, auditions, you guys,
Yes.
like, there's nothing stopping you except you. And if you're going to say,
Yeah.
and if you're going to say to yourself, well, I don't feel good about, I can't really trust my voice. Okay, but how are you stopping yourself from trusting your voice? Are you getting help? Are you, in whatever that means, whether it's working with us or working with anybody? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it drives me nuts, guys, when I hear singers complain and complain, knock their head against the wall around where they are, and they don't do anything about it. It's so right? Like, everything that you want, you can't control people, places, and things. You can't control those outcomes, but you can control your perceptions, your actions, your emotional home, so that you take powerful steps towards fixing the things that will get you from A to Z. Yeah.
And if I may add, a lot of times when we don't get like bigger things, like if we're not called to like go on stage or something, we won't even like practice our instrument or something simpler that we can do because we're not getting something greater. So that's another important thing to focus on.
Super. That is really important. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So appreciate all of you for being here and honoring every one of you for prioritizing your singing journey, your singing career, the things that you want for these 7 days. How great was yesterday? How great was hearing from Amy? I can't believe that we got Chris on. You know, what's so funny is like I've been hearing about Chris for 3 years now since I've known Amy, and we've never actually talked. That was like the most fun little spontaneous thing. So glad that both of them were able to share with you, you know, how breaking the patterns of fixed mindset and expanding into growth has made such a difference. Who had a breakthrough on that yesterday? Noticing ways that fixed mindset has creeped in and sabotaged you. Anybody want to share about that? Does anybody notice? Did anybody have a breakthrough on that yesterday? And you can just go ahead and unmute if anybody had a specific breakthrough on that they'd like to share. And Richie, I appreciate you, and I'm not a therapist. I'm just literally sharing back to you the things that I've learned. I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but I appreciate that. All right, well, you guys don't leave this stuff in the room. So what I mean by that is, don't leave it in the room. If you had a breakthrough on something, now it's incumbent on you to move on it, to take those action steps. Don't leave it in the room. You had some big breakthroughs maybe on your technique, on your breath support, on your opposition. Don't leave it in the room. Go practice it, okay? Same thing, you had breakthroughs doing the meditation. Just because the workshop is over today, don't leave it in the room. Continue to do their meditation. Continue to do your meditation every day, okay? So a reminder just of some housekeeping for today during the Q&A. I've got a bunch of questions that you guys have submitted, whether you emailed them to me or whether you put them in the post in the Facebook group. So I'm going to go through those. And if you have additional questions that you want to bring to the Q&A here, I will open it up after I've addressed the ones that people submitted. I'll ask you guys if anybody has anything else, and then you can put them into the chat here. A reminder, safe space. We have 0 tolerance for any criticism, meanness, judgy McJudgington in the chat. None of that here. Okay. So those of you who've been here every day, there are people that I have seen who have been here every single day. I see you. Bruce has been here every single day. Antonio has been here every single day. Earl, Eldred, I see has been here every day. I'm looking at Judy has been here. Judy Lewis has been here every day. I see you, you guys. Laura has been here every day. I see you. Okay. If those of you who have been here every day, Tila has been here every day. If you have been here every day and you're picking up what I'm putting down and you are not on my calendar for a call to talk about how we can figure out getting you into the intensive training program, book a call with me. Even if you're like, I want to do it, but like, I'm not really sure like how I could swing finances. Okay, that's a different discussion. And I'm going to be addressing that today. And I'm going to ask any of you who want to stay after. I have like a ton of resources that I've given tons of singers, including Amy, who were in that situation. And so we're going to talk about that later for those of you who are in that boat. But like, otherwise, you guys get on my calendar. There's always a way for the committed, and I will help you figure that out. Okay. And I'm excited to speak to those of you who have booked calls. So before we, get into everything, I also want to remind you guys that I'm announcing our scholarship winner today, in a little bit later, because I just want to make sure people have enough time to get on, because I recognize it's Sunday. So let's get into our Q&A. Okay. Okay. First things I want to go through is I had a lot of people submitting questions over email actually about the intensive. And so I just want to blaze through those so then we can get to coaching. Okay. So first thing, I had a lot of questions about when are the intensive program classes and times? What about conflicts? What about travel? What if you have to miss something? What if you have like a trip set up in the next few weeks and you don't want to start right now? So we have our group classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our studio classes. They're 90 minutes. That's your most important time with me, where it's individual coaching in the context of a group. Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, and then we do group mindset call Fridays, 8 a.m. Pacific. So you can do the conversion in your own time. If you have conflicts, if it's a big conflict, like let's say like one of our singers had a pretty serious medical thing come up recently, and she had to pause because she actually had to have brain surgery. And Jessica, sending you love, 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 love. But it was serious. And she's like, okay, but you know, we pause. So if you have like a big thing come up, like a big medical thing, or let's say you book a show and you're going to be on tour for like, we had one of our singers who booked an equity tour for Waitress, the musical. And she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to handle both. So we started and she was able to handle both for a while. But once they got into like heavy, you know, tech week and whatever, there was like 4 weeks where she just needed to pause. And so, okay, so we paused. But those are for like big things, right? If you just have like, oh, I'm going to miss studio class today, or, oh, I have a little cold or whatever, we don't pause. Okay. You have 4 months with us, like, and we record all of our classes, just like we do this. And you get the replays and you get to watch the recording, so you won't miss the training no matter what. But I tell everybody, it's only 4 months of your life. This is your most important time with us. So do whatever you need to do to prioritize it. But if you have to miss one here, one there, you have the recordings. And if a big life thing comes up, like you have brain surgery, we take a pause for several weeks and then we just come back where we left off, okay? Can we pay as we go? So yes, we have a 4-month payment option. Just to go over the payment things, you guys, this is all on the intensive website, but we have monthly memberships. Oh wait, sorry, this is not for where we want to be for a second. Hang on. Sorry. That's one of my friends is doing it. Hang on, let me go back to the intensive page. Ashley, can you put the link in the chat? I just want to show everybody. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so in case you haven't, copy and paste that link that Ashley has in the chat, because everything that you want to know is there about the program. But just to be really clear, these are our payment options. So intensive is 4 payments of $18.97. So you can pay as you go. So you have 1 payment a month and it's $18.97. For those of you who want to save extra money, we do the pay in full, and that saves over $600. Or there's financing, which, and if you're interested in the financing, like this is a great option. You can apply via PayPal. And so you go, you enter in all of your information, and then you click pay later, and it takes you to the options that you have, and it will tell you if you qualify, depending on the rate and the term, if you qualify for longer term financing. So it's great, because for those of you who, you know, might not be able to swing $18.97 a month, but you could swing $500 a month, $400 a month, you click in. And if you have any questions about it, if you need help with it, message me. I've walked singers through this. I don't want that to be the thing. Okay. So you can do, you know, 18 months at $5 something a month, $500 a month, or you could do 21 months. Like they'll give you options, and then you can choose what's right for you. So yes, we do have a ton of different financing options depending on what's right for you. How big are the groups, and do we take time each group for each person? And am I the one who's actually coaching? So we keep the group nice and small. We never have more than 12 to 15 singers in the program at any given time, because it's a lot of individual attention. And at the beginning of every call, I say, okay, type into the chat, tell me what module you're in, tell me what you want some support on today, whether it's a technique exercise, whether it's repertoire. And so I see everybody in the chat. And so as long as you're raising your hand, like I'm getting to you. You don't have to raise your hand in every class, but if I'm you, I'm raising my hand in every class. Okay. And yes, I'm actually coaching. I coach our Tuesdays and Thursdays studio classes. We have Monday Technique Pod, which you will have Annie, who you met earlier in the week. And you have Judy for your mindset calls and for your one-on-one mindset work with her. Another question I got several times was, can I work with you privately in one-on-one voice lessons? And the answer is no. And here's why. And I know that my website still kind of addresses one-on-one lessons, just because you guys, I'm so busy coaching everybody that I just haven't had time to update my website. So apologies there, but no. And here's why I don't work the old-fashioned way. I used to do that one-on-one, have a lesson, 1 hour a week, every week. And you guys, it just does not get the same results that the intensive training program does. It doesn't. And singers, you will spend more money to work with an expert like me or anybody. I mean, in Los Angeles, in New York, in major metropolitan areas, to work with an expert like me, it's upwards $300 to $400 an hour. And you will spend more over the course of a year doing that, and you will not get the same results. And how do I know that? Because I used to coach that way. And I would still coach that way if I thought it got results, but it does not get the same results. And so that's why I don't do it. So, yeah, so that answers that question. What happens if we join and we change our mind? That's a really good question. I forget who asked that, but so we have a 2-week money back guarantee period. So if at any time during the first 2 weeks that you're in the program, you're like, you know what, Arden, this is not for me. Like, it's just not for me. Then I prorate you, I refund the rest, and no harm, no foul. Like, we part friends. But after 2 weeks, you have had 5 studio classes with us, technique pod with us. You've had 3 mindset calls with us. You've had one-on-one mindset calls with us. You know what we're about. After 2 weeks, we're in, and there's no more refund. But within the first 2 weeks, if you're like this, I don't think this is for me, no problem. We prorate you, we refund you, and that's that. So you literally have nothing to lose. Also, because you guys, I don't want anyone, the egregore of this community. You guys know what the word egregore means? It means the collective energy of a group. And that collective energy is really important, because you're not just learning from me or Judy or Annie. You're learning from each other, and you're supporting each other. And so that collective energy is really important. And so I don't want anyone here in the program who doesn't want to be here. So that's why we do that. So that's what happens if you join and you change your mind. The other thing that I get asked a lot is, can I guarantee results? Arden, will it work for me? Can you guarantee results? And here's what I will tell you. Does the program work? Can I guarantee that the program works? Yes. I can guarantee the program works because I see it every day. I see it in singers every single day, having big breakthroughs, having massive new abilities in their technique and their mindset, going after things, seeing huge results. So does the program work? Yes, it absolutely works. Is it going to work for you? I have no idea, because I don't know you. I know the program works, but I don't know you. And it's a co-creation. When, are you going to show up, playful out, give 110%? Go beyond your comfort zone, be coachable, be resourceful, be committed. Only you know that. I know that that's how I show up for you. And I know that's how my coaches show up. And I know that's the results that we get, but I don't know you. But when you do show up, playful out, give 110%, you are coachable, resourceful, committed, then yeah, it'll work for you too. But I don't know that. Only you know that. So will it work for you? Don't know. Only you know. Okay, cool. Let's see. I think those are the only questions, the rest of the questions that I had that people had submitted about the training program. Do you guys in the chat, is there anybody else, or you can just unmute, who has a question about the training program? Otherwise, we will get to the technique questions that we have for today. Okay. Okay, cool. And if anything other comes up, book a call with me, guys, and we'll talk it out. So let's talk about some technique questions that we had. And you guys submitted really good questions. So first 2 questions that I got were from Laura Cunningham. So Laura's questions, I'm just going to read so that you guys know what they are, and then I'll address them because I think you'll all benefit from what she's asking. So first question is, do I have suggestions for belting? for a placement of belting without losing support, without losing a sail in opposition, without blowing it out with too much air or too much pressure on the larynx that leads to vocal fatigue and hoarseness. So let's talk about belting for a second. So guys, I hate the term belting, first of all, because as you've learned this week, the words that we use to talk to ourselves around our technique, around our singing, they really matter because they create a certain energy that then our body responds to and reacts to. And the reason I hate the word belting is because what does it imply? Belting, whack, I'm gonna belt you, whack. Like it implies this like force, this like whack, okay? And in truth, that is how most singers approach belting, and that is why they get vocally fatigued. That is why they have strain. That is why they have injury, and that is why they are scared of belting, because if you do it that way, that's what you're going to create. And that's, I think, what Laura's talking about. So for me, personally, when I'm working with singers, I don't use the term belting. I use the term high chest voice. It's a very neutral term. Doesn't imply really anything. It's just high chest voice, okay? And the problem that most singers have when they belt is that they take their larynx and they shove their larynx up high, and it narrows and it creates pressure and it gets stuck right up here, okay? And it feels like it's strained and it's not comfortable. And most of the time the sound is more, what's the sound? What's the term I'm looking for? Like it's more of a strident sound than we otherwise would want also. Not all the time, but can be there. So for most singers, the reason why they're hiking their larynx up is because they think they need to whack it and belt it and wah, and so then everything just like goes like this. So number one, it's not just about anchoring that lower support. I mean, that is the foundation of it. And it's a lot of pelvic floor, like a lot of pelvic floor. So we talked some about pelvic floor this week, but if you guys know, your pelvic floor is otherwise known as your perineum, is the muscles between them in the front and them in the back, right? Both women and men have it, otherwise known as the taint. We're all adults here, right? So pelvic floor, when we gently bear down on pelvic floor, like you are giving birth, like you are having a bowel movement, those two things are a very powerful pressure on the pelvic floor, but this is that direction, but just much more gentle and much more consistent. That really can root and anchor the energy of the body for that really strong lower support that's needed for belting, because the higher you go in each register, so not the higher you go in your total overall range, but the higher you go in each register, the more support you need. And so if we're talking about high chest voice, otherwise known as belting, we're going to the top of our chest voice. So the higher we go in that register, the more lower anchor of lower support that we need. So we're moving in that direction, but oftentimes we get stuck because lower support wants to move down into pelvic floor and bear down gently to anchor us, but we're so used to trying to push and hike our larynx up. You can't, there's no freedom in that. So it's not just making sure that pelvic floor is anchored and low, but it's also making sure that the larynx is stable and low, not low like artificially low, but lower compared to where most singers belt, which is they pull up and they hike up the larynx. So it's a feeling of like, if you think of an Amazon box and the bottom flaps of an Amazon box, right? People who belt and who are not comfortable with it, and where it feels tense, it feels strained, it feels like you could do damage. They're taking like the muscles of this, and like in this metaphor of the Amazon box, they're taking the bottom flaps and they're like going like this way. Okay. So it's the opposite sensation, which is how open can your throat be? How can we open the bottom flaps of the box? And I actually have a very specific way that I coach this, but it's more advanced than most of you are ready for. Most of you are just still trying to figure out the consistency of your support. And like, we can't do this work until we've addressed that work. So it's two things. It's both of those things. It's anchoring the support much lower and much more consistently, and it's keeping the larynx from hiking up and keeping it nice and floating in the sort of what I call like open center space here. Let's see. That's the first question. Okay, and then the second question was, what techniques improve volume power for somebody who doesn't automatically have naturally loud volume, especially in the end of a crescendo, without too much air pressure on the larynx? Well, and so good question. And the way that you phrase the question tells me that your body doesn't know how to get louder without pushing more air, right? So for most of you, the way you think that you get louder in volume is if you move more air. But that's exactly the opposite. Because remember, we did on breath support day number 2, right? It does not take a lot of air to sing. Doesn't. It's just the exact right volume and velocity of air moving through the chords that creates the tone. Okay. So for a singer who is having problems with volume, it's number 1, connecting to that lower support. So like, Laura, are you willing to unmute for a second and like, come on?
Sure.
And stay with me for a second? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So can you stand up?
Yep.
Okay. So I want you to just get in touch with those pelvic floor muscles that we were talking about. So put your hands on your obliques. Okay. And yeah.
Here we go.
So put your hands on your obliques, and I want you to, without making any sound or anything, just gently put some pressure, like gently bear down gently on your pelvic floor and feel what happens under your hands. What do you feel?
More weight.
Do you feel those muscles flex? Do you feel those muscles engage under your hands when you bear down on your pelvic floor?
Yeah, kind of separate a little bit.
Yes, that's the flex. So when you bear down on pelvic floor, you're also engaging all the rest of this. Okay. Okay, now I want you to do that over the course of a siren, and you're just going to siren up to the top of chest voice. You don't need to even go in head voice right now. I don't really care how high you go. I just want you to take a siren, and I want you to gently lower your pelvic floor into your hands, and that's what's going to move the siren. And you're going to go, ah. So just siren into your pelvic floor.
Ah.
Okay, cool. You went into head voice, but that's okay. I don't really care. Okay. And so that sounded plenty loud to me. I would say that was mezzo forte. What would you say?
I mean, to me, that just, yeah, I mean, that's almost as loud as I can get most of the time without pushing.
Okay. So again, I don't really want you to listen to how loud it is. I just want you to feel the sensation in your body. And I want you to see if you can send your pelvic floor and that feeling of down and out like you were just talking about. I want you to see if you can go like further, deeper. It's a depth. It's deeper, further. Ah. Okay.
Ah.
Yes. Out here, that had a little more volume. So whereas the first time I would say it was like a 6 or a 7, that was more like an 8, bordering on 9. Okay. So unless, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but my experience has been that unless somebody has something physiological going on with their chords, everybody can learn how to bring more volume, more power when they understand what creates that. My guess is you've been doing the opposite. You've been trying to push air to try to make that louder, and all you end up getting is just more air and less tone. Okay, so that sensation, you just phonated up and down a siren. That's no different than singing. It's no different. That sensation that you just had. So like pick a line of anything. I mean, literally, it could be Happy Birthday, it could be Amazing Grace. I don't care. Just, and put it in your pelvic floor. Amen, or whatever song you want to do, right into your pelvic floor in the exact same way you just sirened.
It's time to try defying gravity.
Okay, good. You did it until you got to the high note. And then what happened to your pelvic floor? Did you notice what happened to these muscles when you went up to that part? Were you present to that?
It just paused
Wait.
Yeah, it
Right,
paused.
you stopped.
Mhm.
Keep going. It's time to try, defy. Keep going. Do it again.
It's time to try defying gravity.
Yes. Yes. That's way better. Now, all of this comes with a caveat that is acceptance of what your unique instrument is. Most singers get into so much trouble because they have an idea of what they think an impressive sound is, of what they think they need to sound like to be successful. And then they push. I mean, my guess is that there's probably an idea in your head that you need to be louder, you need to be bigger in order to be successful. Am I reading that right?
Well, it's the impact, pushing for impact rather than, what you've been describing. So that I want the power, but I guess I have been like comparing, too much, and so
yeah, you heard the term compare and despair. You ever heard that, right? So, but that's the thing, you guys, not all voices are built to do all things. Not all bodies are built to do all things. Like, you guys watched the Olympics recently, right? The long distance marathon runners, they've studied this. They have more slow twitch muscle fibers that they were just genetically born with than the sprinters who just genetically have more fast twitch muscle fibers. You think that the gold medal marathoner is going, shit, I didn't win a sprinting medal, I suck. Like, no, because he understands this is what his body was built to do, right? And so it's a mindset thing, and this is so common, Laura, you are like not the only one at all who has this. So many of our singers do, which is you get this idea in your head of this is what it has to be, this is what it has to sound like, and this is the rep that I have to sing if I'm gonna be successful. And so then now that singer is trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and it's forcing and it's pushing and it doesn't work. So it's also this idea of getting to know your instrument and acceptance around what your unique gift is. Now, there's a lot of technique stuff, a lot of gaps in the technique that you need to fill in order to know what that potential is. But then once we know that, it's like, maybe you're more of a Glinda. Maybe you're what I call your special lane, like your home is doing like Rodgers and Hammerstein instead of like pop Broadway, right? And so there's other things that like play into this idea of like needing power. And it's like, why are you not enough with your unique instrument the way it is? I have a singer who I've worked with for a long time who is a classical singer. And in the classical world, there's things called fachs, which is another way of saying, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, like category of voice. And different operatic roles were written by the composers way back in the day for a specific fach, for a specific category of voice. And one of my singers, she's a very light, she has a very pure, very light, very beautiful voice. It's very sparkly, but it's not meant to sing Puccini or Verdi because there's no way she would carry over a 60-piece orchestra. And those are very thickly orchestrated. She's meant for Handel, she's meant for Bach, she's meant for these things that are very sparse, and her beautiful, light, pingy voice is made for that. But she spent years thinking that she needed to be this other thing in order to be successful. And so she pushed her voice, she put a lot of pressure on her voice, got a vocal injury because of it, worked back, healed from that, came to work with me. And it was like, yeah, what is it about this standard? Why is this the thing? Do you know how many opportunities you are missing over here to sing Mozart, to sing Bach, to sing Handel? Because you have this idea that that's what you have to do to be successful. But your voice was not built for that. And you will never be successful doing that. And that doesn't mean you're not talented. And that doesn't mean you're not good. Like, you guys, I am a very high, very coloratura soprano. I sing above the staff, and that is where I live. And that doesn't mean that I can't play around with something lower, beefy or whatever, but I'm not going to be paid to do that. That's not my lane. But it's that acceptance of like, what is my special sauce? What is my instrument built to do? And so, Laura, like, you know, when you come work with us in the program, it's about filling those gaps in the technique to really see what you are built to do. So you're not putting yourself out there for things that are actually not really meant for you and missing out on the things that are.
So is that something you guys do in the program, is to actually kind of help you figure out what your voice is?
Yeah, because that's the whole point of filling the gaps in the technique. Because how can you know what this thing can do? How can you take this out for a spin if there's just gaps preventing you from actualizing it? So even just to that end, what we were just doing about that lower consistent pelvic floor, it immediately felt better when you went in to do the higher part of that phrase, you know? And so I tell everyone when they come into the program, like, be in the footwork, like, go the outcome. We don't know what we're going to find out yet, and that is okay. We're just going to fill these gaps. We're going to create technical mastery and help you get out of your own way, and then it'll become very obvious to you what feels good, what doesn't, what is your lane. And we play through that rep. You know, you come to class and you might experiment with this one week, you might experiment with that another week. And again, you guys, it doesn't matter that you can't sing it doesn't mean that you can't sing whatever you want. I could go and sing a country song, but nobody will ever pay me to sing country, ever. Because I don't have that twang. I don't have that. It's just not my voice. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad singer because I can't do it. I can do it for myself, but that's just not what my lane is, right? So I hope this makes sense to you, and I hope that you also got that feeling of what that consistency can be.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really good question. Okay. Juso, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Please tell me if I'm not. So is it Yuso? How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, almost. It's Juuso.
Juuso. And tell me,
Yes.
where are you from?
I'm from Finland.
Finland.
Yes.
We've had so many singers in Europe over the years. It's awesome because you guys have such a interesting perspective on music in some ways that Americans don't, because there's such a longer history there, you know, than we have here in the States. Okay, so let me answer your question. So on day 3 of the masterclass, when we talked about rising and tilting the soft palate in order to get a more open sail, a better sound, that confused me because many teachers advise to only sometimes raise the soft palate and some tell not to raise it in the context of, say, pop or country singing. Seems that the general thought is raising soft palate will give you more operatic tone. But what if one doesn't want an operatic sound? Male country singers, like Chris Stapleton especially, tend to have a more nasally tone, and doesn't that have to do with a lower soft palate? So main question, when you say tilting the soft palate up and forward like a trunk, is it different than simply raising it, and does that result in a different sound than just raising it? Okay, such a good question. So
it was a loaded question. I hope that made sense.
Oh, it does. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So if you guys remember back to the training from day 3, it's not just the height of the soft palate that matters. It's not just the amount of resonant space that you get. It is the shape of the space that matters too. In my experience, because I've sung a lot of different kinds of music, I have sung a lot of classical music and I've sung a lot of pop and contemporary music professionally as well. And what I want you guys to understand is that in my experience, that high soft palate is imperative no matter what genre you sing. The shape is what is specific to certain genres. So we need space, because without that space, soft palate falls and it does create a nasal sound. But what you listen to when you hear Chris Stapleton, you're not hearing a nasal sound. If he dropped his soft palate, it would not be a good sound. Would be, so I'm gonna raise my soft palate, okay? So that's what happens when you lower your soft palate. There's literally nowhere for the vibration to go, so it goes right into your nose, not in a good way. When you listen to country singers or somebody like Chris Stapleton, there's a twang that's created, but it's not being created because they don't have space. He does have space. If he didn't have space, it would not be a good sound. It would not be a pleasant sound, okay? So there's two things going on. There's space, and then there's the shape of that space. So if we use the example of like classical music to more pop contemporary music, and I'm gonna do this in my head voice because you can really hear more of the difference if I do it in my head voice. So if I'm gonna sing, I don't know, whatever, I'll just do it on a phrase, excuse me, from well, we were just doing Defying Gravity. So if we actually do Defying Gravity, like in the key that it was written in, which was a little bit lower, Laura, when you were doing it, but that was okay. If we do that in the key, it goes to a D. Tell them how, yeah. So if I do that with classical resonance, tell them how I am defying gravity. I sound like an opera singer. I have a lot of sail, I have a lot of stretch in my soft palate, but the shape is very round and very domey. It's like a dome back there, okay? And that creates that space for that ring in that shape. Tell them how I, okay? Now, if I'm gonna do it in more musical theater, more pop, okay? It's still head voice, it's still high between my ears, but instead of, if we're gonna make an analogy like a roof, instead of it being like a domey roof, it's gonna be like a pitched roof, okay? Like a gable, okay? So it's still high, but it's like this instead of like this. The shape is different, okay? So when I am gonna do this as in head voice still, but more musical theater sounding, tell them how I'm defied, tell them how I can go back and forth. It's still super high, but one is really domey, the other is like pitched and angular up this way. So in my experience, the best sound is always the one that's given space. And then we always want space, but depending on what genre. So if I was to do it in more, what do you call it? Like pop, lower, right? Like let's say I'm gonna do, well, I was doing Amazing Grace a minute ago. So if I'm gonna do that, like Amazing Grace, how sweet that's classical. How I'm pitching my roof. It's still like super angular, it's super high, but it's much more forward than a classical sound is still high, but it's much more on a diagonal and it's much more round. So, you know, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Okay.
Then how would you say, like, say someone like Billie Eilish or even like her?
Billie Eilish does not sing with any vocal technique whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Now, but
it sounds good though.
Well, yeah, this is what's interesting is that her songs stay in a very small range. They don't go really low. They don't go really high. They stay pretty in the center, very speech level. She uses head voice a little bit. She knows what to do to get around a mic, so she doesn't have to project. You know what I'm saying? And her songs they're not very difficult. They don't require a whole lot. But if you've ever heard her speak, her speaking voice is kind of raspy and kind of airy because she doesn't sing correctly. The thing about Billie Eilish, and there are other people like her, she knows how to connect with an audience and she knows how to write songs that connect and make an impact on an audience. And she can sing well enough to do that, to get that impact across. Nobody's gonna hire her to sing something difficult, but they don't have to, because she's made a career being able to get across her attitude and her songs and her brand using a pretty small fraction of her voice. And that's all she needs to do what she does.
Would you say she still applies the breath support correctly, like the whole pressing down? No?
Nope. Mm-mm. Her sound is incredibly airy. And
Right.
the way that that is created is because she's not managing her air at all. And she breathes a lot. She breathes a lot. She doesn't sing long phrases. She doesn't sing long phrases. So, and she writes songs that work for the limitations of her voice. And she's a very good songwriter. And she has a very unique way of being able to be vulnerable. That's her unique gift, is that she's incredibly vulnerable in front of her audience. She's incredibly vulnerable when she records. And so, she connects with an audience. And it works for her. But what she's singing is not very difficult,
Yeah.
Good question.
All right. Great.
Good question.
If you have time for one more like clarification on the shape thing, when you were talking about that the shape matters, then how would you, like, if you want to practice that yourself, how would you know that's the right shape?
You need an expert. These are more advanced techniques.
Right.
These are definitely more advanced techniques. You wouldn't know. You would need somebody to guide you so that you started to identify the feeling of the shape that you want. And you need somebody to be able to say, like, if I was coaching you and we were working on it and I'd be like, yes, Yuso, that's right. What does that feel like? Where's the shape? What do you notice about that? Is there an image, a sensation? So when I'm telling you, yes, this is right, and then you start to identify the shape, the sensation, the image that it feels like, and then you recall that every single time, and that's how you know, and you start to create the muscle memory of the new shape. Make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Good questions, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I wonder, is Lucinda here? She is. Okay, Lucinda, I wanted to answer your questions about GERD and reflux and candida and just certain medical things that have been coming up for you. So my question for you is, if you don't mind coming on camera. Let's see. There's Lucinda. Hi. So first of all, you mentioned that you've been to an ENT. Have you been to a GI? Have you been to a gastroenterologist?
Yes. Yes, I did.
So are you being treated for the GERD and the candida? Were you on, because candida is like thrush. Are you on antibiotics? Like, have you been treated medically for those?
Yes, I had an endoscopy, and that's how they discovered I had candida.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was diagnosed with LPR, which is silent GERD.
Right.
For the silent GERD, I had a procedure called the TIF procedure, which helps to fix the sphincter between the stomach and the esophagus. And I had that done. So that was a year ago.
And
since then, yes, it did. But I still have, because of the candida between, my breastbone up to my throat, and then having this, it mimics LPR, is what the doctor told me. He says, you're going to feel like you still have acid reflux. And it's continued because I'm trying to get rid of the candida. I've been on medications and diet changes, and I mean, it's been a major work in progress.
Okay. And is any of it working?
Yeah, slowly but surely. I have to say, from a year ago to now, with having had the surgery, I'm taking notes. That's my point. Because of the surgery, that did help me get better. It's just that I have lost time with my voice.
Okay.
Because of all the issues that I've had. So it's, for me, I'm trying to regain what I lost, because I'm in 2 choirs and I do get paid for singing. And so it's just regaining what this whole health issue has caused me. And I know Laura can relate to it because she's gone through LPR. So and if anybody has, it's just very phlegmy. You get very hoarse. Your voice gets extremely fatigued.
Yeah. So, and I see your question in the chat, Laura. Sugar, as far as I know, is not related to reflux, as far as I know. But so when you say getting it back, right? So what are the things that you feel have gone.
Well, I have to, and I appreciate your whole thing about the pelvic floor, because I've gotten, sometimes when you're in choirs, you get a little lazy. When you're a soloist, you have your solo voice, but then you have your choir voice.
Okay, can I
They're
stop you
separate.
there? I got it. And this is a great discussion because I think we have a lot of singers here who are probably in ensembles and choirs. So thank you for bringing this up. So I love choir music. I love listening to it. I love going, you know, like I've sung in choirs. And here's the thing, guys, two things. Number one is choir directors are not expert voice teachers. Most of them do not know how to tell you how to get a good sound. Most of them tell you to do things that are not helpful because their goal is a uniform sound. The choir conductor, they are conductors. They are not vocal experts. And their job is to get a blend and to get a uniform sound. That is the beauty of a choir. We just spent 7 days helping you guys to tap into the things you can do in your technique and in your mindset to free your unique voice. That is diametrically opposed 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, from what most choirs want. So if you want to sing in choirs, with all due respect, if you want to sing in choirs, take with a grain of salt what the director is telling you to do vocally, and use all of the tools that you have, that you understand, that we've worked on for your opposition, for your support, for your anchor and your sail. That is your most healthy, free voice. Some of you have really interesting, unique sounds. Some of you have bigger voices than a choir really wants. And if you have to make your voice small to blend and to fit in, what most singers do to do that is they hold, they over control, they squash, and those are the things that tire you out, number one. And if you're somebody who has reflux issues, you're now trying to manipulate your diaphragm, and your stomach is right there. And so there's parallels around sending more acid up than you probably otherwise would want also because of all that over control. So if you are going to sing in a choir, sing with your healthiest, most reliable, efficient technique. That is the sound you get. And if your conductor is not okay with that, then you have a choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my, as they say, take what you like, leave the rest. Like, that's just my personal opinion and experience about choirs. You're right. Choir singers are not soloists.
Mm-hmm. I think part of the situation too is like the more I sang with a choir, the more this sounds just it's just one of the, I'm sorry, it's a side effect of acid reflux, is you get burpy. You start kind of like either you're swallowing air and you start really hurting. The more I was singing, the more hurt I was feeling.
But like you can, but that's because you're over controlling and nobody in the choir is monitoring you or managing how you're using your technique efficiently or not. So I would invite you to, the next time you go into rehearsal, use the tools that we did this week. Use your opposition tools. Stay consistent on your support. If you're burping, if you're extra air, it's not the fault of the choir. You have an opportunity to make a different choice and use more efficiency in your breath support.
Mm-hmm.
You won't feel all of that. Now, if the sound that you make stands out too much because of that, and the choir director has a problem with it, then again, you have a choice to make, right? And so I think that it's just, our goal is to free your most authentic sound. And the goal of a choir is to make everybody sound the same. The problem is everybody doesn't sound the same. So it's just a bit of a difficult situation depending on the kind of choir and what they require, right? But at the end of the day, for you, that efficient support, making sure you have eyes and ears of an expert on you to make sure that you're doing that the right way, to make sure that you're not controlling and over controlling that then pushes in and will aggravate the reflux. You know what I mean? I think could be really helpful to you. A lot of these issues are technique issues. They're breath support issues. But the good news there, Lucinda, is that they can be fixed.
I kind of was thinking that one of my biggest issues is breath support, because when you have other voices around you, you can get sloppy. You can be a sloppy singer, and you kind of are covered with other people's voices. But it's a whole different thing when I start doing solos to have to change the whole breath support, because it's now dependent upon me for the strength.
Okay, so your job is to sing like a soloist no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. Okay? And see what happens.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm trying to avoid getting hoarse after an hour. That's one of my biggest.
That's breath support. That's all breath support. All breath support. Yeah. Yeah. So so now you can do something about it.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Absolutely. Okay. So Joe asked a very simple question that has a very simple answer. Is smoking cigarettes bad for singers? Yes. Full stop. For all the reasons that it's bad for you, even if you're not a singer, it's worse if you are a singer, because it stiffens your cords, and then your cords can't vibrate the most freely. So if you are a smoker and you care about your voice, stop smoking, and your health will be better all around because of it, for all the reasons that you know. Helda asked, asking for a student, when a song is in a certain key, what does that mean? Please give an example. How do I know what's a good key for me to sing in? So the key of a song, this is a music theory thing. The key of a song is the eight tonality scale that song is written in. And you can change the key of a song by putting it in a different 8-tone tonality. So we can either be in C. Tell them how I'm defying gravity. I can do it there. That's my key. Or I can go down here. Tell them how I'm defying gravity. So it's a different 8-tone pitch center of the scale. No, sorry. There we go. So how do you know what's the right key for you to sing? Well, that requires you to really understand the potential of your voice, your range, which means ironing out any gaps in your technique, because poor technique will make you think that you have a smaller range than you actually do, right? So when we talk about range, singers who come to me, oh, I can't sing low, oh, I can't sing high, that's BS. Most of them can, they just don't have comfortable access to it, because right now they don't have the efficient technique that allows them to tap into the full capacity of their range. So first, we got to iron out the technique and make sure that the technique is super efficient, the breath support, the resonance, all the stuff that we talked about this week. And then you will know what your actual range is, and then you will know what keys feel more comfortable to you than others. So my range, my voice is pretty high. That doesn't mean I can't sing low, I can, but my sweet spot, what feels better to me, are things that sit kind of middle and kind of high. Somebody who has a lower voice is probably, that doesn't mean they can't sing high, they can, but they're what they call tessitura, the comfortable sweet spot range of where you like to sing is a little bit lower, so they might choose keys that are a little bit lower. So, it all, knowing what key is right for you is dependent on being able to access the potential of your instrument, which is dependent on having the technique that supports that. Yeah. So good question. Okay. Simon. Hey, Simon. Okay. He's not on live, but I'm going to do this so he can watch in the recording also, because I think you guys probably have this question too. Regarding support, do we engage our core muscles when breathing? Or do we start with our belly out, no core engaged, and flex from there? So I want to just break this down really simply for you. When you breathe, meaning when you inhale, the muscles of the container of the support are soft. We are not in our flex, we are not in our engaged muscles until we go to phonate. So on the inhale, everything is just soft and relaxed. Now he uses language here that says, that I just want to address. Do we start with our belly out? Well, no, I don't want you to think you start with your belly out, because then you're going to push your belly out. Don't even think about your belly. Release your belly. right? The inhale, remember you guys, the inhale is a release. So all of these muscles, release your ribs, release your belly, release your back, everything just lets go. And then the air comes in, okay? So the breath is a release. Do not engage the support or those core muscles when you breathe. Let them go. Then when you engage, he asks, do you mean engage the core muscles? Yes. So when I say engage to phonate, what I mean is all of the muscles of support that we talked about on day 2. Your transverse abdominis, your rectus abdominis, your obliques, the lower back, the pelvic floor. Those are the muscles that flex down and out when you start to phonate. Okay, so I hope that just is a little more clear for everybody. Let's see. I think that's it for Simon's question. Camilla, I see your hand. You have a question. Go ahead and unmute. There you are.
Hi.
Hey.
Sorry, it's so quiet.
Okay.
I can't make it any louder, so I wasn't certain you'd said meaning. Yeah. Hi.
What's your question?
I have a question because no one has ever spoken to me in regard to perineum. I mean, always in regard with support and lower support. And one teacher once said, "Sing from your fanny." I mean, that was definitely talking about that area.
I get it, but it's like kind of in the wrong direction. But okay.
Yeah. And yeah, honestly, since children, I've become much more honestly. I'm intrigued. The release that you mentioned on like an intake of breath, would it then come? Like, do you need to feel anything down there?
No, it's
Good.
just,
okay.
Yeah. So like, here, stand up for a second. And and you guys can all do this.
I'm wearing a onesie up until my waist. I apologize.
Okay. Don't worry. We don't care. It's all good. We know you have kids. We know you have little kids. Okay. So the reason I wanted you to stand was just so that you could kind of feel more alignment when you do this. So you guys, this is how you can start to get in touch with your pelvic floor. Okay. So you can move your pelvic floor in 2 different directions. So let's just get acquainted with it. So Camilla, draw your pelvic floor up towards your navel, like up towards your belly button, as though you're trying not to pee.
Yeah.
It's also the same motion of like a Kegel exercise for those of you who are familiar with that. So you can draw your pelvic floor up towards your belly button. And you guys, this is not anything we can see on the outside. It's just something internal that you can feel. Okay, so now just release your pelvic floor, just drop it, and just like wiggle and take a walk for a second and just come back to neutral. Just find your normal, right. And so now, okay, and so what you just felt was you engaged your pelvic floor and then you let it go. You pulled it up, and then you let it go. Now do the same thing. Gently bear down on pelvic floor. Gently, you guys, is the optimum thing. Like if we're giving birth or if we're constipated and we're like that is not what we want here, okay? Like we need on a scale of 1 to 10, that's like a 10. We need like from a 4 to like a 6 max, maybe a 7, okay? It's the consistency of that flex and engagement through the pelvic floor that matters, not the like whack of force that matters, okay? So you can gently bear down on pelvic floor and you can feel that. Now let it go and just it kind of just comes back to neutral again. Yeah. So when you use it through the phrase, you're gently engaging it, gently lowering it, gently over the course of the phrase. Because what it does when you gently lower pelvic floor, it keeps all these muscles are connected to everything. And so it keeps your diaphragm low. It keeps your diaphragm from popping up really fast and pushing too much air out. Okay. So when you're in the phrase, you're in that gentle engagement. And then when you breathe, you let it go, you release it, just like you just did when I said, okay, let it go. And it just goes back to neutral. Yeah. Do you feel that?
Super.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think it was,
Good.
Accidentally worked or didn't before.
Good. Okay, I see Lily has a question, and then I also see Alexa's got her hand raised. So Lily first.
Yes, hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
So my question kind of touches on mindset, I guess, because I am a fully blind singer, and I was able to get a musical theater, a musical theater education was presented to me on a silver plate, and then I didn't take it for a lot of different reasons, but I still want to pursue it as like semi-professional, as an intense hobby, like somehow not completely as like my first job, but still pursue it. And now I feel like all or nothing mentality is getting in my way and just saying to me, you should have taken this opportunity, or when you don't, then just leave it out completely. Like, it's total sense, but.
So this is where we talk about baby steps, Lily. Baby steps, right? Like, what are ways in which you can engage that will help you to feel more confident, more comfortable, that will give you experience? Because right now, the all or nothing doesn't serve you, because it's like, I don't know, does it feel overwhelming, or what does all feel like?
Well, all feels like it's not doable for me. Well,
Right.
because of the exact reason of the blindness.
Right.
I can't do, tours or travel with mic and a keyboard. It's just I think because of, well, my impairment, it's something that too many difficulties like that come with it.
So here's what I'm going to give you. And Judy said this yesterday when she was talking with one of, I forget who she was talking with, but I'm going to bring this back, okay? And then I have somebody that I want you to look up and that I want you to start to get to know and follow on either social or through her website or whatever, okay? So the saying goes, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. So if you've already decided that it's too much and that you're not going to be able to do it, you're right. But if you also decide, hey, there are ways in which I can do this, and I'm going to start with baby steps, and I'm going to start to engage with this, and I'm going to get more experience, and I'm going to figure out how to get beyond the challenges and see what works for me, like that's a whole different mindset than already deciding that it's just too hard, okay? And yes. I want you to look up, and I'm going to put this in the chat. Wait. I want you to look up Lori Rubin. So Lori is.
I think her already. Yeah.
You know who Lori is? Okay, so Lori and I went to undergrad conservatory together, and we trained in the same conservatory. And she's had a. Yep, I know her from a lot. I mean, 25 years. I'm outing myself. I'm 47. So when was I in college? So it's like 27 years ago, right? I've known her for a very long time, and she's had a really unique and interesting career that she has carved out in a way that works for her. And if I may, I think you're judging what's possible for you based on an idea of what it might look like for a sighted singer versus what Lori has done. Yeah, what Lori has done is created a career that works for her. And she's also a blind singer, for those of you who don't know, and she's had a beautiful career. And what's interesting is, so do you guys, I don't know if you remember this, but like, Burger King, the fast food restaurant, like Burger King used to have these ads when I was growing up, and the ads were, have it your way. It was like, have a burger whatever way you want. But their ads were, have it your way. This is the Burger King philosophy of career, Lily. You get to have it your way. You get to decide and experiment and explore and get curious as to what works for you. And this is not just for Lori, guys. This is for everybody. This is for everybody.
I see.
Whatever you think your
limitations.
The
difficulty. Sorry.
What?
I think the difficulty for me, I'm trying to like find my own way and do what is with, give I can just find my career path. Sorry. But I the field that I'm most interested in, that I most would love to pursue, is musical theater, and that comes with dancing and switching from stage to stage really quickly, touring, with an ensemble. So musical theater just doesn't seem to be like the field that's apt for blind performers.
It may
And
not be.
I couldn't find anybody else who is blind and had done it. So I feel like there might be other ways, but nothing gives me the sense of fulfillment as musical theater does.
Okay. And so that's what we talked about in the first day of mindset, is seeing what is and looking at what is. And is it true that there are certain circumstances and limitations to that art form that may not be conducive to a blind singer? And that might be so. But that doesn't mean, I mean, I think about Lori. Lori's recorded albums of stuff. Lori goes and does her own concerts of whatever music she wants to do. You could have your own, you could create your own little concert with friends and stuff where you do scenes and you do things that work for you. I guess what I want to help you to lean into is that there's more than one way it can look. That your mind has attached to the art form as you understand it, with lots of set changes and lots of movements and dancing and all that, but to ask you, to invite you to consider how else you could engage with musical theater in a way that could work for you.
Okay.
And that's a
Thank
longer
you.
question.
I
That's a
will.
longer, you know what I'm saying? That takes some curiosity. That takes some experimenting. That takes some, putting yourself out there. Some things are not going to work and some things will work. And it's just like getting the data when it doesn't work and trying again the next time with that learning, and then something will work. So it's just allowing for that curiosity and that feeling of like, I'm just going to fail forward, you know? Okay. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
I know if you haven't engaged too much with Lori, like reach out to her, because she's a huge inspiration for singers who are not sighted.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Okay, you guys. So I see we have a couple more questions. One of the questions that I completely forgot to address from the questions that were submitted, that had to do with the intensive training program, and I don't want to forget because I just realized that I forgot to address it, was if I need to think about it, can I do the program if I don't enroll right now? Like, are there only certain windows of time in which we can join the program, or can I think about it and can I enroll at a later time? So first of all, yes, you can enroll whenever you want. The program is rolling, which means that you get to pick your start date and you can come in at any time. But it will be at our 9K tuition, which is our normal tuition, instead of the 7K tuition, which is the special discount for you guys through midnight tonight if you take care of your enrollment, or at least get on my calendar to book a call. Okay, so if you're on my calendar and we answer some questions and now you know it's the right fit for you and you enroll on Thursday, that's fine. Like, we're still at 7K, okay? So you can think about it. You can take as much time as you want, but if we don't do the enrollment within the next few days, it's our normal 9K tuition. But I also want you guys to understand that indecision is also a decision. Not deciding and kicking the can is also a decision. And so what is it costing you the longer you wait to decide? Time, money. The money you are not making is a cost to you because you are not out there being able to do what you love in a way that supports you. Time is the one non-renewable resource that we are all given. We do not get time back. If you can remember what Marie said when she was talking on Wednesday about how if she had just decided 4 months earlier, she would have had that much more time living in the potential of her gifts, going on tour, getting agents, all the things that she's now doing. All of the opportunities that you miss that are going to other singers. You guys, the opportunities, they don't go away. They just go to the singers who are ready. So what is it costing you the longer you wait to decide to fight for your voice, to fight for your journey, to fight for your talent? I mean, how much more information do you need to decide that you want to be on big stages doing what you love every day? How much more information do you need to decide that you have a gift that you are not living to your potential and you do not want to get to the end of your life with regret? So not deciding is deciding that you're okay with more of the same. And you can follow me, you can come work with us at any time, you can continue to engage with me, and I will continue to love on you and all of our free content, and that doesn't cost me anything, but it does cost you. And the question that might help you get clear is, are you willing to settle for those costs? Are you willing to settle staying small? Are you willing to settle for more auditions where you get in the callbacks, but they go with the other singer, getting passed over yet again, and having to like explain that to your partner who's like so burnt out at work because they're still supporting your dreams? Are you willing to settle for more time still attached to your side job because you're not able to book the gigs that are really well paying? You just can't fill a 200-seat club at $50 a ticket in multiple cities. And how hard it is juggling everything, which leaves you less time for yourself, less time for your family, and most importantly, less time for your music. Guys, the money you are not making is a cost to you. The opportunities you are not taking is a cost to you. The gifts you are not living is a cost to you. And the more time you spend in your blocks not knowing how to make the impact that brings the career that you want, guys, impact equals income. You want a big league career with a big paycheck, then you got to learn how to make a bigger impact. And the longer you wait to understand and fix the things that are sabotaging your impact, you cannot get that time back. You cannot get that time back. So are you willing to settle for these costs? Like whoever asked that question, I didn't write it, I didn't log, Ashley didn't tell me, but whoever asked that question of can we think about it? Are you willing to settle for the costs of continuing to kick the can? And if the answer is yes, that's okay. It's not the right time for you. I will still love on you in our free group with all my free content. But if the answer is no, and you're not willing to continue to settle for more of the same, you want big shifts and you're tired of waiting for them. You want results like Marie, like Amy, like Stacy, like Vanessa. There's no other approach that is this effective. I can tell you that because I have trained in them all, I have coached in them all, I have been a student in them all. When you train with us, you get a hands-on results-based approach that works with you to implement all the techniques and tools that you need next. We're not leaving you just hanging in the wind, winging it to try to figure it out on your own. This is a long-term sustainable approach. This is not the vocal fad of the day, because you have a holistic 360 system that helps to support you to embody the skill set, the mindset, the artistry that creates unstoppable singers. Now, speaking of unstoppable singers, we have a scholarship winner to announce. So as you know, I'm offering a 5K scholarship to anybody who threw their hat into the ring, who was here on every single day of all 7 days. And thank you to all of you who submitted. I see you. You are all so deserving. Every single one of you who applied, I want you to know that I watched every video. I see you. And I literally can't decide, and I don't want to decide, so I'm doing the thing where I've got all your names in a hat. Whoops, wait, let me put that back. Don't want to lose one. Okay. So I got all your names in the hat. I'm not going to look. I'm just going to pick one. Okay. Kaywin Wenzel. Kaylin, is Kaylin here? I know she was here a bunch of the days that I saw. Let's see, is Kaylin here? Okay, I think she had put in the chat that she had to go because we're at time, and I know she has little kids. Okay, Ashley, let Kaylin know that she is a winner of the scholarship. Congratulations, Kaylin. I'm very excited to work with you. For all of you who applied, your next step is to get on my calendar for a call. Look, you guys, I get that being an artist is not easy. And I get that investing $7K in yourself and in your training might be the biggest investment that some of you have ever made in yourself. I remember when I made similar investments in myself and it caught my breath. I was like, okay, I get it. And for others of you, you already spend way more than that eating out, on vacations, shopping over the course of a year. So you feel like you're doing well. You feel like you're thriving when really you're not succeeding at your passion and your potential the way that you want. Because what we're talking about here is teaching you how to unleash 100% of your potential, how to trust your voice, claim your impact, audition, perform, record with power, and showing you how to own your voice and own the stage to get legit management, to get those equity gigs, those AGMA jobs, to get hundreds of thousands of plays for your recordings, to get booking representation, opening tour slots, representation for your music and film and TV licensing. These are the things, guys, that put you on big stages. These are the things that pay an average of $7,000 a month to start. But it's more than that. It's a new life doing what you love at the highest level and knowing that you fought for that. And it's a whole lot better than watching your goals, your dream fade into the rearview mirror more and more each day because you aren't landing those next level big opportunities that you want. So we're going to show you how to do that. And you guys, this is way less than a semester at Berklee School of Music, Juilliard. You know, those are 4 years of your time. $30,000 of a semester. It's $120K for the degree, and they don't teach this. Trust me, I have 2 very fancy conservatory degrees in vocal performance, and they don't teach this, okay? You will make this back. So many of you, like I think about those of you who are classical singers, those of you who are Broadway singers. You guys know what equity scale is right now? Anybody? Equity scale? No? Okay, equity scale right now for ensemble, like not even a lead or whatever, a speaking role, like just ensemble. Equity scale is about 3,000, 3,500 a week. A week. That's it's more than 12K. AGMA scale. Here it's the American Guild of Musical Artists. Most of you, that's 7,000 a performance. That's AGMA scale that you guys are losing out on. So we're going to show you how to do that, guys. And I don't know about you, but if I'm going to spend my hard-earned money, I'm going to invest in the things that make the biggest difference, that get me the best result in the shortest period of time, because in the long run, that saves me money and it allows me to earn more money. And let me tell you, I've done it the other way. I have been penny wise and pound foolish. In my early career, the producer that I really wanted to work with, he was 10K. And I knew he was it, and I knew everything about his work was so aligned that he was exactly what I wanted. But I was in scarcity mindset. I went with the more reasonable option, a producer who would do the whole project for half, for 5K, and it just missed the mark. It just wasn't what I wanted. And after 6 months and so many versions of the songs, it just wasn't working. And so I went back and I hired my first choice. Only now I'd spent $15,000 total. Way more than if I'd just gotten resourceful to work with the best from the start, instead of being run by my scarcity and by my fear. And P.S., I sold 10,000 records working with that great producer, so it came back to me. So, think about it, guys. If you continue to spend money on traditional training, on traditional voice lessons, it feels like less money because your brain is like, oh, only 150 a week or only 200 a week. But if you think about it, how long have you been with your teachers? 2 years? 3 years? You've already spent 9K already, but you're still not breaking through. And that's costing you way more than the discounted 7K investment in the program, because now you've lost 2 years. And that loss of time is way more expensive. Like, how many opportunities did you miss or not put yourself out there because you couldn't land, because you weren't singing in a way that could get you there in the last 2 years? And how much money have you lost because those big shows, big gigs, big opportunities were going to other singers who were able to stand out from the competition and land them? So I know it can be scary. I do, you guys. It can be scary to invest in yourself and commit to a new way of training because you're thinking, will it work for me? But think of the consequences of not changing things up. When you show up, like I said before, and you play full out and you give 110%, when you're coachable and resourceful, it will work for you. Because if you do not change things up, the consequences are more birthdays celebrated with the hesitation that another whole year has passed, and you still have to rely on crappy side jobs because your singing gigs do not pay enough. All of the self-doubt that caused of going through like yet another audition season or releasing yet another EP to disappointing results. The dread of being asked at Thanksgiving or Christmas, how's the music going, Arden? And then that immediate feeling of failure when there is literally nothing new or nothing impressive on the horizon that you could say. Been there, I know. And that heartache of watching other singers at the same level get the big gigs and wondering, will it ever be my turn? As you watch the clock tick and tick and tick. And all the New Year's resolutions, this year will be different. This year, I will finally break through this year. And I know what you're thinking, you guys. Arden, if I had the investment, I'd totally do it, but you can't get blood from a stone. I appreciate you. I really do. And there's always a way for the committed. If you are sick and tired of struggling, get resourceful. Vanessa did it. Amy did it. Marie did it. Guys, there are always ways. You could do a GoFundMe campaign. You could do crowdfunding. You could do Kickstarter. We've had singers raise the entire tuition to be able to change their voice and their careers doing crowdfunding. You could look in your closet, in your garage, in your attic. What do you have? Gifts people have given you that you don't use, old appliances, old jewelry that you could sell on Craigslist or eBay and put towards the tuition to change your life. I had a singer who was divorced. She had her old engagement ring. She'd completely forgotten about it. Sold the engagement ring, came into the program. She was the one who did the equity tour, who did the waitress tour. Okay? You could get a 0% interest credit card, right? If those of you who are in the US, I know that that's an option. Like there are 0% interest credit cards that give you literally free money, like no interest on all new purchases for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of months. Check it out. And I will put this in the chat, but I want you guys to see this. Look. This is NerdWallet. The best no interest credit cards of October. Wells Fargo. No interest for 21 months on all new purchases. That's 21 months of free money. You guys put the 7K on a card like that. If you qualify for a card like that, you have almost 2 years to pay it off. Comes out to a couple $100s a month. It's a no-brainer. 21 months. Bank of America, 18 months. US Bank, 18 months, 15 months. So like, I'm going to put this in the chat for you guys because again, there's always a way for the committed. You're not making money. You're in the pickle that you're in because you're sitting on this voice that you don't know how to monetize. So here, let me put that in the chat for you because it's such a great resource. Here, NerdWallet. It's called NerdWallet. They are a nonprofit that rates different banks and different credit card offers for people. This is it. Check it out. Don't just automatically, you guys, I don't care if you have $0 in the bank or if you have $1 million in the bank. What I care about is, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? And are you ready to get creative and resourceful to get what you need so you can have what you want? So there's NerdWallet. There's also SoFi, which does personal financing. So you can go through our PayPal financing. If that doesn't approve you, don't give up. You can do SoFi, which does personal loans for any purpose. And they will tell you if you are approved for the 7K loan, and you will pick a rate and a term. And so it could be a 5-year term, it could be a 3-year term, whatever. What you guys get resourceful. Don't just play the victim and say, oh, I can't afford it. If Amy had done that, she would literally not be in the position that she's today. She would not be singing on those stages. She would not be making money the way she is making money. That girl got resourceful. And it came back to her because she was teaching the universe what she is worth. She was teaching the universe how to treat her. So there's always a way for the committed, okay? So your next step is to go to any of those links. You can also go to our link and with all the information about the intensive training program and check out our PayPal financing and see what works for you. You can break it up into the 4 payments of $18.97. There's no interest associated with that. Or if you're on the fence and you have some lingering questions, whether it's an alternative way to parse out the tuition, whether it's timing questions to make sure that this really is the right fit for you, get on my calendar, guys. book a call with me and we'll reason it out. I'll share with you other creative things that singers have done. You know, if you have a good credit score, if you have a way of, maybe you have a family member or a friend who has money who would say, I believe in you, I will invest in you. Like, who might be willing to gift you or loan you some or all of the tuition to get the help you need to get where you want to go. So I will share that stuff with you and we'll see if this is the best fit for you to reach your specific goals and a path forward if it is. And if you already know that you want in and you want to enroll, then your next step is to go to the intensive training page where we have all the program details and pick the tuition plan that works the best for you. And as you know, the 2K discount for the intensive closes tonight. As long as you're on my call calendar, if we take care of the enrollment in a couple of days, that's totally fine. But if you just know you want in, just take care of it tonight. If you know, like, I don't even need to get on a call with you, Arden, like, I know I want to work with your team, this feels aligned for me, just take care of it. Make sure you do it before midnight tonight so that you get the discount. Let's see. I think that's about it. So again, let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, the replays. Okay. Make sure you guys grab the replays and download the homework. If there's anything on the the workbook that you haven't done. So you'll have, the workbook is yours as long as you've downloaded the PDF. Okay. That doesn't go away, but the replays, access to the recordings of the replays do go away at midnight tonight after the workshop. So make sure that if there's replays you want to watch, you do it the rest of, you use the time after this to watch them. Stay active in the Facebook group, guys. I will continue to see you in there. Were there any other questions that I didn't get to? I see Jack. Yes, you have your hand up.
Hi, Arden.
Hey.
I just want to say, one, thanks so much for doing all of this.
Of course.
It's a three-parter, but I'll be pretty quick. One led from, I believe his name was Yuso. Yes. And we were talking about the soft palette, and I watch all your YouTube videos, and I know you always talk about the parachute in the back, and obviously for classical. And it was interesting what you said about, you're kind of V-shaped more forward. Can you give me or us a couple of drills or exercises that focus more on, I'm assuming you just try to raise a little bit more of the front of the palette, as opposed to most people when they try would raise the back, and that's more of a classical. Is there a contemporary type of exercises that we can be doing to help move it a little more forward?
So it's less about an exercise and it's more about the how. So for all of these exercises, you guys, like, what the exercise is most of the time doesn't matter. How you do it matters. So you're on the right track about placement. So one of the hows that you can tell yourself with whatever it is, the exercise that you're doing, like, let's say you're doing, I don't know, ma-mo-moo, fine, is to direct the energy of the vowel onto your hard palate. Right behind your teeth. Visualize the energy of the vowel shooting like a beam of light right onto your hard palate. Ma, as opposed to ma.
So, Arden, I can do what you were doing before with the classical, where I can move it back and I can move it forward. But there's no drill or exercises to have maybe a little bit more focus in that area, something that's more.
It's not what you want to drill is the intention of shoot it like a beam of light, hard palate to behind your nose to right out the top of your head.
So the back of the hard palate, basically.
No, right behind your teeth.
Oh, really?
What
if you can raise your soft palate in the front and the back, like you were doing? Like, I can do that, but I have to really focus on that spot. There's no exercises that kind of help focus in that area a little bit more.
It's not the exercise. It's what you're telling yourself.
Okay.
You need to focus. Like you said, it works, but I have to really focus on it. Right. Because it's not muscle memory yet. Because you're focusing on what's the exercise that's going to give me that. And I'm saying any exercise, focus on. So it's like what I said a couple of days ago about, like, it's the quarter that gets you the gumball. What's the quarter? What's the thought? What's the intention that gets you the gumball? And so if you're getting stuck in the back of your throat, or if you're getting stuck more in classical sound, or if you just...
I only ever really thought of it as the soft palate. I never really got real specific, and you raised that attention about moving it back and forward. And I guess I did maybe subconsciously, but you're right. Most people, when they do that parachute type of thing, it's much more of a classical sound. And if you can move it forward and lift it and think about it, you will get more of the raised palate with the contemporary sound. I just didn't know if there was something. So I'll just focus on that spot.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of ways to bring what I call directing the energy of the sound. It's energy direction, directing the energy of the sound more onto your hard palate. You can think feeling your fangs and your molars and your hard palate pulling off your teeth and like riding up into your brain. You can think it's just anything that's going to focus you on sometimes what I call like bite the apple, or like if you're putting in a retainer and you have to like, and it brings you like this, right here, okay? And it's not that your soft palate is low when you do that. It's not. It's just you're tilting the energy of the sound this way, which puts you in that shape as opposed to this way.
Thanks. I appreciate. Can I ask a second part?
Sure.
It has to do with, you know, intonation and pitch, and mine at times can fall a little bit flat, as it can for a lot of people, and it's not necessarily a breath support situation. I believe, in my opinion.
Are you sure about that?
What's that?
Are you sure about that?
Well, I'm decently sure. I think it has more to do with, because the notes in a song are changing so quickly, and I tend to slide sometimes and scoop. So when I'm scooping, I'm a little under and I'm a little under, and each to hit the bullseye of each changing note. So to do some staccato exercises top down seem to be the best kind of solution. Are there any other exercises that you can suggest other than some scales that are top down, so you're landing more on top of the note as you go?
So again, it's not what exercise, it's how you're doing them. And based on what you're telling me, if I can mirror back, and this is so great, Jack, because I can tell you exactly what's going on, because you literally are telling me exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is that right now you're seeing each note as its own individual thing that you have to hit. You scoop up to it and you don't quite reach it. Everything, each note is its own individual thing. And my guess is that your opposition, including your best support, is engaging and then releasing and engaging and then releasing on each individual note, which is why you end up scooping, because you're not supported enough to just stay in the center of the pitch. And so,
but if the pitch keeps changing, each note of a song, like when I do a song, the note is always changing as you go. It's not one linear thing.
But your support is.
Right.
But if you're flat and you're having intonation issues, that's a
bits of flatness. You know, there's some notes that don't hit. I'm just wondering how to bullseye.
You want more
one.
consistency. You want more consistency. And if the pitchiness is inconsistent, it's telling you that your opposition is inconsistent. It's telling you that instead of continually flexing and flowing through your support as the pitches change, you're in and out of your support.
No, but if I'm making, like, you know, when I do my morning hisses, you know, like 60 to 100 seconds of just, or even when I'm singing a song, obviously smooth breath flow is key. You don't want in and out, up and down. You want to have very, very smooth breath flow. So I'm good with that. It's just that when the pitch is constantly changing, you know, throughout the song, there's so many notes, and, you know, I write out my lyrics and I put, you know, how the vowels change over each sound. So it works great to do that. I'm just curious to know if there's another way other than that to be more accurate with your pitches.
Right. It's to find the hiss within the phrase. So I want to mirror back what you're telling me, because it's very important. What you're telling me is that when you're doing the hissing, you find a very consistent, steady current of air and steady flow and steady support. But then when the pitches change, you don't find that. So what that tells us is that you're doing something different when you have a lot of moving pitches than you are when you're hissing.
Not sort of, but I do things, you know, like slurring exercises work, where you're like, I use the term, you know, the song "Life is a Highway" from that car song, "Life is a highway." But if you say like "life is a highway," like it's all one word. It's not "life is a highway." It's "life is a highway." And so if I do my lyrics that way, it works and it's fine. And a lot of my songs sound great. It's just that there's times where I'm a little bit under, and it's not like towards the end of the phrase where you might be losing your breath support. I had from a long time ago a scooping thing where I would tend to scoop in, maybe from when I was real little singing songs.
Right, but what the scoop is, if I may, what the scoop is the reason, and whether you're present to creating this because you want the scoop stylistically?
I don't.
Or you don't? Okay. So what that is that you've started to move to the next pitch, but the support has been arrested for a second. So what we talk about support before you phonate, but if you're now moving pitch, if that continual flow through of the sail and the anchor has not continued, now you're moving pitch, but you haven't continued this, and that pitch is going to be under because you're not supporting it to the degree.
I'm maintaining my breath pressure and breath flow. It's just, I think I've ingrained so many times of the scooping. You'll see it in a lot of country songs too, but a lot of the scooping. So rather than bullseyeing each one in a very flowy, a flowy way, I just still have it ingrained. I'm just wondering how to get out of that scoopy thing.
And so I'm telling you, which is not to visualize it as trying to bullseye each note. Because if you try to bullseye each note, you're going to bullseye it, and then without realizing it, you're going to pull off a little bit, and then you're going to try to bullseye the next one, and then you're going to pull off a little bit, and that is why the scooping and you're under, and it's not as consistent as you want. So not to view it as individual pitches.
So what would your suggestion be to do?
So you're going to flow through, and you're going to think of like a current, okay? So if you think about the current is your opposition. It's the consistent flow of your flex and the consistent stretch and pull of your space. These two things moving away from the midline consistently, okay? And that's your current, that consistency, that flow through, okay? When we try to hit each individual pitch, like your language, bullseye, individual pitch, it's like you're in a current and you have lily pads, and each pitch is like the metaphorical lily pad. And right now, every time you try to hit or bullseye each individual pitch, the language that you're using is telling us what your body is doing, and you're sinking your lily pad and you're interrupting the current each time. So instead of thinking of bullseyeing each pitch, it's almost like you drop in from above. So I'm giving you an image like a penny into water for the initial note, so that you're not trying to come up the phrase. You're not singing your way into your support. You're going to support your way into your sing. And then be very present as you go through the phrase to not view it as each individual note that you have to hit. Because if that's how mind is viewing it, that's what your body's going to do. But then you hit, and then my guess is you pull off without realizing it. And it's probably super micro because you know enough to know not to do that. But I'm just telling you, over 25 years of experience solving these problems, that everything you're describing, that's what's happening.
Okay.
And so it's not a particular exercise, because if you continue to, and staccato exercises can be really good, but staccato exercises are good for onsets. But what they're reinforcing is how to hit each individual pitch. And that's a different skill as a staccato than it is to find legato in a line,
right,
to find consistency in a line. So you can use staccato exercises for onset, reinforcement,
right,
but to really start to notice, and obviously not hearing you, it's harder for me to pinpoint exactly when this is happening, but based on everything you're telling me, it sounds to me like textbook that you're supporting each note rather than the whole phrase. And so you're gently interrupting your opposition each time you try to bullseye a note, instead of thinking of it as like a single bow on a violin. Like you're going metaphorically speaking, instead of single bow. And that consistency will help your pitch too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Good questions. Okay, I see Alexa has a question, and then I think we will call it a day. Go ahead and unmute, Alexa. I see. Can you come on? There you go.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yahoo!
Okay, what's your question?
First, I want to thank you for this masterclass.
Oh, you're welcome.
You have been wonderful. It has been so great and so informative. So thank you. I actually have some background training, but my thing was I started in choirs. Then I got asked to join bands. I've been in rock bands, but I used to sing like with orchestras and stuff like that as well. So, but I started singing without training. So I'm going backwards. I'm trying to break bad habits to incorporate technique. And I've studied from various coaches, but it's still hard to change that. Have you ever heard of a singer called Lara Fabian?
Yes, that's familiar.
She's a Belgian singer. She's got great technique and she's got a beautiful voice. She sings in 4 or 5 languages. She does pop, but I love how she sings in French mainly. So she's really good with her sound focus, and there's a part where she drops her jaw so long to hit a high note, and it's effortless. She's a very controlled singer. My concern is I have a big, excuse my language, ballsy voice. People think it's a guy, but I used to be a first soprano, and I wanted to know regarding the arytenoids and the cricoid cartilages, as well as I know one stretches one way, one stretches the other way, exercises for that, but also to narrow the sound to go through the passaggio from your chest voice to your head voice.
It's all breath support.
Because I don't want to overblow the note. I know you have to narrow the airflow, yes?
Yeah.
And then also the vocal track for vowel modification, but the vocal track, do you always stay here in the mask from a low note to a high note, say a G5 or and on?
So there's sort of two things I just want to address, and this is a good question. Thank you for it. So everything that you were just talking about you don't want to blow out the note, you don't, all of that, that's all managed by all of those muscles of support in the apoggio, in the lean of the container, to keep that diaphragm staying low and moving slow, because that is what gently creates the exact right velocity and volume of air to pass through your cords so that it vibrates them the most efficiently and you're not sending a hurricane of air and blowing the note out. So if that's an issue for you, then it means that there's inefficiencies in your breath support, some of which you may recognize, some of which you don't. So that's the first part of it. When you're talking about
narrowing the vocal cords?
Yeah, I don't want you to think about that. Because if you think you need to narrow your vocal cords, you're going to do all kinds of manipulations to try to do that. And when the airflow and the support is optimal, that just will happen. It just happens. Okay. That's not anything that you need. You guys, your body was built to make resonant sound. It was
kind of like flying an airplane with your feet. It feels funny, it just does, but I get it.
But when the technique hooks in, it feels effortless, because the technique that I teach, at least that I'm teaching you guys, is built to optimize what your body already knows how to do. And so when it hooks in and you have that muscle memory consistently, it feels effortless. There is a sweet spot. There is a sweet spot that you get to with it. And so I want you to understand the physiology in terms of just the understanding. But when you're actually thinking technique, I don't want you to focus on narrowing the vocal cords, because you will manipulate and get into a lot of trouble, because that's not something you can manipulate. It comes from what's happening below it and what's happening above it, not what's actually being forced there. Sure. Okay. So
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, to speak to the idea of the mask. So it is true that when we talk about the mask, what we're talking about is where sound resonates in the head cavity. We're talking about sinuses. We're talking about the space between your skull and your brain. We're talking about the upper part of the buccal cavity, and we're talking about nasal passages. So all of this is space in your head where sound can resonate, where sound can bounce around. And when we are in the optimal internal shape of resonance, we feel those vibrations really acutely in the mask in a really good way. But if I tell a singer to focus on the mask, if I tell a singer to, a lot of you may have had voice teachers who say, put it in your mask. What a singer most often will do is will drop their soft palate to push the sound and the vibration into their mask. And then it's a nasal sound. It is a squashed sound. It's a squeezed sound. And it doesn't have the beautiful overtones that you get when you have the optimum internal shape and space of your soft palate, your hard palate, your buccal cavity. When you have that space, that shape, and that tilt, what it does is it refers the vibration. So the sound goes like ping pong. And so the sound is actually going this way, but then it reflects and you feel it here. But if I tell a singer to put it here, they lose all of that, and then they don't get the sound that they really want.
Is that the same as when you raise the soft palate, like, excuse me, when you want to focus the sound first in your hard palate and by your teeth, but then the airflow when you raise your soft palate, is that considered open throat singing then?
No, because that's not your throat. Okay. So open throat means that the muscle,
your larynx,
what
your
open
larynx
throat
position.
means, what open throat means is that your larynx is free to vibrate in the most efficient way possible, because the muscles of the throat and the neck are not closing in around it. The muscles of the tongue and the jaw are not pushing down towards it. And you're not, like what I was talking about belting earlier, you're not pulling your larynx up to try to reach those high notes. So the idea of open throat is not to depress your larynx and create, so depressing your larynx is like that sound if you go, hi, I'm pushing my larynx down.
You're lowering your larynx. So stay neutral larynx.
We just want to, we do a lot of work, at least with the singers that we work with, on getting out of these habits and tensions, whether it's tongue tension, jaw tension, scalene, side of neck tension, because these are the things that close around the larynx that make it hard for your cords to vibrate the most freely and efficiently. So when we talk about open throat, what we're talking about is, I don't necessarily love to focus too much on it, because what it can cause singers to do is to depress your larynx, is to push down on your larynx. And so then singers feel like they have a lot of space because they're open down here, but they're pushing it down, and that's pressure. And that can create a lot of, well, it's not the best sound, and it can create injury. Versus we want the space up here. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's a discussion about tension rather than needing to force something to be open, because that's tension also. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question.
Do you work with people for vowel modification up and down the range, as well as the shaping of your tongue for that vowel modification?
Yes.
Do you work with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But also, there are foundations that need to be set before we can even talk about that. You know what I mean?
Right. Understood. Steps.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
So
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I missed a bunch of today, but I had a real engagement.
Well, that's okay. That's why we have the replays, guys. So
I love it.
Stay on the replays. Get on my calendar if you've been here every day and you want to talk about the program. We'll see if it's a fit for you. Take care of your enrollment tonight. Get the discount, and watch the replays before they go away. And it's been such a pleasure, you guys. I can see all of you who have stuck with us this long. You're in it to win it. I appreciate you. Continue putting one foot in front of the other. Fight for your journey. Fight for the things that you want. Nobody's going to hand this to you. If you want to see big change, then you got to make the decision to go beyond your fear and claim it. And that's what we're here to support you towards. So this has been a pleasure, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Looking forward to talking to those of you who are on my calendar, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.